Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And the new Commander Shizu, the Flaming Armament, has released. And how good is she? She's okay. She's okay. She's not terrible by any means. She's not super great on every team, though. And that's what's going to kill her a little bit. I did have to go to 130 pity, so not quite 200. Also not great, though. Unfortunate. But what does Commander Shizu do now that her entire kit is released? Let's take a look wherever she is. There she is, right here. So she is fire. She's on Commander, Heart of a Hero, and Adventurer. She uses a fire sword, which, I mean, the old OG Fire Shizu uses a sword. The Tempest Elite Rimuru, if you happen to pull him, he used a sword, so you can take it off either of them. She is a AoE Fire Physical, 300%. Increases your ally's attack by 5% when you ult with her, so she will want to be used first before your single target ult goes. And her first skill, the skill we did not know, increases Commander and Heart of a Hero characters' physical attack by 100%. It's essentially the Diablo skill from Primal Demon, because Primal Demon Diablo did Primal Demon and Commander physical attack by 100%. So that is pretty much the same, just different teams. And then, as a secondary effect, it's actually better than Diablo's. It increases EX ult damage by 70%. Now, this, I would say, is actually not as good as Diablo's initial buff, right? Because Pierce is pretty basic. It works on his team because you were, buffing Blanc to the nines with Pierce power. EX ult damage requires you that, one, have an EX ult, which means that you must be an EX character to even partake in this buff. And two, you gotta be on Commander and Heart of a Hero to get this part. We'll take a look at that team in a bit. Her second skill is a full convert from 6 oranges to 6 blues. She is essentially Primal Demon Diablo at the end of the day. With, minor differences, she is Primal Demon Diablo. So if you have used Primal Demon Diablo in any way, she's going to run pretty much exactly the same. She's just not changing greens, she's changing oranges, she's buffing 2 different teams, and Diablo's giving everybody Pierce rate, which by itself is not a very strong buff. Shizu's giving everybody EX ult damage, which no longer applies to everyone, but it is a much stronger buff than just straight up, I can pierce now. So, I mean, there is variances in how useful they can be. Her Valor trait, if you bring her in, she seals magic skills. It's a very, very good Valor trait skill. It's one of, if not the best, Valor trait that a character can have. So very good for her. I just don't see myself using her in Valor Cup very often, honestly, because she's pretty expensive. So that's the only downside. And then her actual trait, if you do pull dupes of her for some reason, if you send 6 blues, she gets 5% attack the next turn, makes her a little bit stronger on her AoE ult. So yeah, that's cool and all. But it's the skills. It's the skills we gotta talk about. I'm already not the biggest fan of Diablo because, one, I don't like these straight across converts. I never have and I never will. I like the double orb change for 25 points. I think that's reasonable and an efficient skill right there. Doing in a full 6 hand means that, I mean, you're covered for any scenario that you have all greens, which, can happen. Don't get me wrong, it does and it can happen. But I find a lot more use out of having a converter like Earth Guy, Space Violet, the new Hinata, where they change like 2 orbs of one color and 1 of the other. Because there's a lot more scenarios where that's going to be much more prevalent than 4 or 5 or 6 green orbs, right? Just in everyday usage. There will be probably Jubilee stage for boss battle that changes the entire hand of oranges to give Shizu her time, just like Diablo's beatdown battle did that. Sure, fine. But then his other skill, Primal Demon Commander, physical allies, 100% physical attack, and Pierce rate. Okay, I mean, anybody can use Pierce. Shizu, Commander, and Heart of a Hero. Let's take a look at that team, by the way. So we're looking at Commander, Heart of a Hero, and Physical. We have to put the physical in there because it's a physical buff. And this is the team. You've got Warrior's Mind Rimuru, not traditionally used as a DPS character. Hero 2.0, definitely not. World of Fantasy 1.5 Anniversary Shizu, not a good character at this point. New Year's Blessing Rimuru is a good character. I'm using him as my DPS on the current meta. I mean, he's fine. Summer Shizu is a support. EX Yome is defense focused. He doesn't care about damage. Summer Hinata is not on Commander, so she's not getting the extra damage buff from Renard. The new Shizu, and then the new Diablo is there. Like, are you going to run them both together? You have every orb covered. You have an entire hand of greens and an entire hand of oranges. It's going to cost a literal shit ton of points to use them together, and their 100% buff would overlap, on each other. Well, it would overlap on him. And then the new Hinata. And you have a whole bunch of characters who are not EX. Therefore, they will not get that 70% extra EX alt damage. And if you're unaware of what an EX alt buff is, it's just an additive thing. So you have an alt, you have alt damage from Hinata, right? She does 120%. Okay, cool. Anybody can use that. Well, almost anybody can use it. If you have an EX alt, it's just an added buff, but they're both temporary. But they're differentiated so they can be used together. Because normally if you have a temporary alt buff and a temporary alt buff, they cancel out, and it just takes the higher one. But if it's an EX, they can be put together because it's buffing a different thing, technically. So you have a normal alt buff, you have an EX alt buff. You could then have a permanent alt buff, so you could have 3 different kinds of alt buffs going on if you really, really wanted to. And you certainly can. That's just the difference. But it requires you to have an EX alt. So if you use this skill and you're not an EX character, you don't get anything from it. So, and if you're not physical, then you're not getting a physical buff. And if you're not on the Commander or Heart of a Hero team, then you're really not going to get it. So this is the team that she would be, 100% across the board buffing. You can use her just for the 70% EX damage buff. Like, that's certainly an option. And then you would just lock it down to any EX character across the game. Just like kind of how we were using Jean a little bit, where she's buffing Primal Demon EX alt damage, right? This is very specific to Primal Demons. It was mainly for her, and Blanc, and Violet. Shizu is not as limited. It just needs an EX alt, which means that you can use her on a blue stacking team. Like, if you put her with Warrior's Mind Guy, like, he's doing the 70% alt, and you add another 70 on top of the EX alt, so you're doing 140% alt damage. Like, you can do that. But it's unnecessary, right? You don't really need that. Shizu is another prime example of a luxury character that it's kind of fun to have, but she's unnecessary. Unnecessary because as of right now, like, not this team, but let's bring it back to what I'm currently running. I'm currently running some version of this team, and probably actually more towards Fount of Wisdom Rimuru. Where is he? Right here. This is the team I'm currently running until Shizu came out. We've got the green and orange, we've got double orange, we've got the alt swap, we've got the greens covered here for turn 1, and we've got Rimuru as a DPS character. This team does more than enough damage to clear Inferno 3 by itself. Shizu will help you do more damage. Yeah, sure, great. But I already have Fount of Wisdom Rimuru, who, yeah, is not doing as much as Shizu is. But if I'm already killing the boss with one nuke, then I don't really frickin' need Shizu, now do I? Right? If I'm doing 4.1 or 5 million damage with this team, and the boss only has 3.9, what's the point of doing 7 million? Jubilee? Yeah, sure. Are you going to actually try and sweat your ass off in Jubilee against the other tryhards? Probably not. And if you are, then you probably are a tryhard, and you've already summoned. So you don't need this video. You do not need this Shizu to complete everyday normal content. Like, you don't need her for Conquest. You don't need her for Tempered Edge. You don't need her for all of Beatdown Battle, essentially, if you have the proper substitution units. Right? None of the content that exists in the game right now requires 7 million damage, or whatever I did on stream with the Shizu on the team. Okay? She is nice to have. Totally unnecessary, though, if all you care about is beating some stages and logging off, and then coming back the next day and doing your dailies, and then logging off again. Right? Free-to-play players, you only summon on single unit banners if they bring insane levels of value. and they're like must summon units. Shizu is not a must summon unit. She's a luxury item. You don't need her. It's nice to have. It looks nice and shiny. But at the end of the day, like, how often are you using her? What team is she buffing? Do you have a Commander or Heart of the Hero team that's physical focused that you're even using right now? If your answer is none, then I don't know why you're watching this video still. I don't. And it sounds really harsh. Shizu, on the proper team, is a really good support. But the key word is on the proper team. And if you don't have Hinata and Renard and New Year's Rimuru, and your only blue stacking team is Primal Demon or Visions of Coleus, this Shizu legitimately does nothing for you. Legitimately nothing for you. Because Visions of Coleus is magic focused. They don't need a physical buffer. They have an EX alt buffer in Jean. Primal Demon, they're running Pierce. Right? They're already getting 100% physical from Diablo, who's buffing that team. Shizu's not buffing that team. So, where are you using her? Why are you summoning for her if you can't use her in her best setting? You're not. You shouldn't be. New players should only be summoning on this banner right here for Renard and Hinata, and they should fuck off until next month, when the next Part 1 banner comes out, and it has another Protector and another battle unit on it. Really shy away from summoning on single banners at any point in the game. It doesn't matter what month it is, doesn't matter what meta it is, unless they're like undisputed best units in the game, it holds very little value, because there's only one new unit versus two new units versus a protector who's actually the leader of the team versus a support unit for a team that you don't have. So that's my logic and reasoning. You can agree with it. You don't have to agree with it. You know, you're all entitled to your opinion. My opinion is she's not a must summon. You should probably skip her. But, you know, if you did happen to summon, let me know how your summons went in the comments below. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.